From Evoke Media, I'm Sabrina Mirage Naeem. With me is Cassia Binkowski, and this is Breaking Glass, a series of conversations with women around the world who are shattering glass ceilings and challenging social norms. They are audacious, gutsy, and their stories are echoed across borders and generations in a rallying cry that is changing the narrative for women everywhere. Today's conversation is with, drumroll please, a man. That's right, we're bringing on our fourth male guest to dive deep into an issue that affects women really all over the world, and that is gender violence. Jackson Katz is the founder and president of MVP Strategies and an outspoken expert on why gender violence is not just a woman's issue.
Not only that, Sabrina, but Jackson feels very strongly that calling gender violence a women's issue only perpetuates men's lack of engagement, when in actuality, they should be at the forefront of ending this.
Amen.
We're talking about masculinity, we're talking about strength, about his TED Talk that's been viewed millions of times around the world, and we're talking about Jackson's work to end gender violence in the military and in professional sports.
And it's really an eye-opening conversation. We love the chance to flip the paradigm and dive deeper into an issue that impacts more than 1 in 4 women around the world. We're super grateful for men like Jackson who are willing to challenge society's definition of what it means to be a strong man. Men who are willing to challenge long-standing institutions to train leaders to end gender violence. Take a listen. Hi, Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Sabrina, for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
We are also looking forward, and I have to tell you that we generally have some notes that we put together for conversations like this, and we have so many different things we want to talk to you about. So we're going to
be ready.
Yeah, be ready. Prepare yourself. We're going to come at you from all the different angles. But first, where are you calling in from today?
Massachusetts, west of Boston. I'm from Boston, but I live west of Boston.
I did pick up the accent. I have to say, I told Cassia, I hear Boston in his accent. So
Yeah, she did.
Very good.
So Jackson, I'm really excited to have this conversation. You're here in large part because of the work that you do, the extensive knowledge and experience that you have about men's role in gender-based violence, about how we can educate people around gender-based violence, the kind of different ways that we should be talking about it. I mean, there's a whole slew of things that we want to talk to you about. You are also here in small part because a man whom I know to be a loving, compassionate, gentle human being, a man in my life, believes that male chauvinism is innate. In other words, not able to be controlled or altered, and that my son, for example, who is 2, will likely grow up to have chauvinistic characteristics regardless of his environment or upbringing, because it's just how men are genetically. It's innate. And it's an argument that I know to be false, but we as a society tend to give men a hall pass, I feel, for acting in certain ways, for acting out in certain ways. So we need to have this conversation and break that whole thing apart. And I need you as an expert, as a, PhD in sociologist and someone who has been in this role for many, many years to unequivocally say that is a falsity.
That is a falsity.
Yay! Okay, done.
Yes, done. We can wrap here.
I'm sorry to offend the person you care about, but it's silly. I mean, it's like saying racism is endemic to the human species and therefore we can't really work on it. It's a genetic. I mean, really, we can't change it. It's genetic. It never changes, and that we can only nibble around the edges of its damage that it does, but it's something that's inherent in being human. I just don't buy it. I think it's there's tons of evidence. There's libraries full of evidence to show that gender, for example, and how we think about masculinity and femininity and more accurately, masculinities, TIES, and femininities, TIES, because there's a whole range, are socially constructed in the sense that different cultures have different definitions of what is masculine and what is feminine. It's in the same society, in the same country, or it's the same culture. There's different subcultures that have different definitions of what is masculine and what is feminine, and it changes transhistorically, in other words, different eras. What we consider normative gender practices are in previous generations were unthinkable. They were like science fiction. Just like when we look back at the past and say, "Oh my God, they did that back then," we think, "Oh my God, that was how they defined manhood." I mean, there's so many, or womanhood, or what have you. There's so many examples. I mean, I'll just give you a couple, just off the top, just for this man in your life. I mean, people will say things like, pink is a women's color, but pink used to be a boy's color until the 19th century. Right, high heels is considered a sort of a feminine sartorial affectation. A style. High heels were a aristocratic European male phenomenon in like the 16th century. Men of a high standing would wear high heels, and that was seen as very masculine. I mean, the idea that somehow these ideas about manhood and womanhood are fixed and not ever changing and being contested, and also, by the way, marbled into economic and political and social structures, and the belief systems around gender are also directly connected. The symbolic way that we think about and represent gender is also tied to concrete and material realities of power relationships, economically, politically, and every other way, they're also always changing. So the idea that somehow boys or male children are born genetically predestined to be sexist or to be chauvinist or to be, treating women with sort of second-class status or anything like that is frankly absurd.
Excellent.
I standing ovation. If this is the only thing that our listeners hear out of this conversation, well worth it. But the fact is that it's so much more complex than that. And that is really just the fundamentals. So I'd really like to take a step back and start at the beginning, which is, how did you take an interest in gender issues, and specifically domestic and sexual violence, gender-based violence?
Well, I mean, like for anybody, Sabrina, it's complicated. Like my personal history, if you will, and, personal experience as a child and my family and everything else, and as a kid growing up, and then how I ended up, in university. I mean, I started becoming an activist around this subject matter when I was 19 years old, a long time ago. But anybody who's listening who has any sort of insight into the complexities of personal identity and family history and everything else will know that you can pick out points in time, but you can't account for all the complexity. So having said that, I'll say that when I was in college in the, it was in the early 1980s, I was quite enjoying my freedom away from home, to be able to come and go as I pleased and not worry about my, what time I came home. And I'd be coming home at 3:00 in the morning from parties, and I didn't go to school as an undergraduate on an urban campus, but it was 20,000 students, so it had some urban elements to it. And I was just like, not even thinking about my personal safety coming home at 3 a.m. And I'm not saying that was rational, but it was normative. It's certainly for men and white men of my cohort. And to this day, a lot of white men live in parts of this country, the United States, but also in other parts of the world where they don't really worry about their personal safety. Anyways, I'm not saying it's rational, but it was normative. I lived in a co-ed dorm, a co-ed residence hall, where my roommate was a man, but my hallmates, right next door on both sides, were women, and they had a completely different life experience. Their freedom was completely attenuated or narrowed by their fear, basically, of sexual violence from men, especially at night, not exclusively, but especially at night. And this was just after the era of the Take Back the Night rallies had begun in the UK in the mid-'70s, and then in the United States in the late 1970s. The Take Back the Night movement was obviously an attempt by women in particular, across class and race and ethnicity and everything, to say, we have the right to be going out at night and not worry about being sexually assaulted. I mean, it seems like a basic, assertion.